All right, welcome back to the 2086 NBA playoffs. We are here with the Louisville Liberty and the Milwaukee Bucks in the second round of, like I said, the playoffs. We are in the top half of the bracket. 1 seed, Louisville Liberty versus, I believe, the 5 seed? Something like that, 5 seed, Bucks, 4 seed rather. And so the Bucks are coming in, having beat the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, and then Louisville Liberty's coming in, having whooped the Boston Celtics, I believe. And so, I don't even know. It's been a minute since I recorded one of these episodes, but here we are, finally back. Harvey Carney just hit a free throw, and the Louisville Liberty are up by, looks like, 8 points. In the fourth quarter, we got 17 seconds to go. This game is a wrap, folks. Let's go. We got Calvin. Look at Big Calvin, Big Calvin Goodrich. He had 46 points, people. Look at these averages. Look at these playoff averages, folks. My goodness. Oh my gosh. 38 points a game, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 2.8 steals, 1.6 blocks, 56% from the field, 45% from three, and 100% from the free throw line. What a fantastic, absolutely amazing playoff run so far for Calvin Goodrich, the 2-time MVP, the 4-time champion, the 3-time finals MVP. My goodness. And then Harvey Carney with 19 and 11. Darren Griffin had 17 and 12. We got Gregor May with 16. Like, everybody ain't even do that good. Like, they're in the teens and shit. They just had one guy put up damn near 50. And then everybody else kind of rode the coattails of that. We got Eugene Hines here. We got him from Minnesota in the trade. We got Darren Griffith also from a trade in this past trade deadline. Howie Cooper, like, this guy has been with Louisville Liberty all his life. His whole career. He was drafted 16th overall in 2075. And now look at him. He's a 4-time champion. Everybody knows his name. He's very relevant. He's been on this Dynasty team. He's one of the only guys who have all 4 championships. There's the starting 5, there's him, and then there's a guy named Philip Lucas who's currently in Detroit after he was shipped off this past trade deadline. And so now we have this team taking a 1-0 series lead against the Milwaukee Bucks, who struggled today. Nobody was very efficient. Stephen Caldwell, their star shooting guard, he's only shooting 40% from the field this playoff run so far. So even though he's averaging 26, we got Peter Popovich putting up fucking amazing numbers. What the fudge? Oh my goodness. 27 and 16 rebounds a game, 4 blocks. Holy moly. He's going to need some help, though. If he wants to win this series, he's going to need some help. Darren Oliver off the bench with 17, 3 for 4 from 3. He had a pretty good game. This Bucks team is decent, man, but they've won a couple playoff series too. They were in the conference finals not too long ago. They had beaten, they know how to win some playoff series, man. This is not the first time. This is not the first rodeo, but this has been a tough game so far. I expect that they'll win at least a couple games out this series. I don't expect them to just get swept or anything, but we'll see. We'll see. Right This is it, man. This is playoff basketball, folks. This is NBA playoff basketball. We got a nice little team here. I don't think I covered the Bucks very much in the other last videos, but quickly to go over, we got Barney King. This guy was drafted in 2071, as you can see, 18th overall, so not even supposed to be a crazy player. He was more of a backup point guard to OKC, because they had a guy named, this is 72, they had a guy named William Wallace, I believe. Yeah, they had William Wallace back then, and he was the point guard. And so they ended up trading William Wallace eventually for Bob McLeod, who they have now, but Barney King did not see that trade because he was shipped off at the end of year 4. He was very efficient his first couple years. Look at these numbers, these true shooting numbers. Like, he was super duper efficient off the bench, but the starting point guard was just so good that they couldn't realistically start him over him. So they ended up shipping him off to San Antonio for, I forget exactly who, but they shipped him off to San Antonio, and immediately he starts putting up 23 and 9, pretty good, decent numbers. I don't think the San Antonio team was good. I think they were pretty bad. He gets shipped off to Milwaukee because they also had a couple point guards. This is when they had Henry Gilbert. They had Henry Gilbert in the Spurs, and so they had to trade Barney King because he's a 6'6" point guard. So he low-key could have played the 2, but I think they just had a bunch of roster, construction issues and stuff, and they kind of just wanted to offload him. And so they got him to Milwaukee, where he's been ever since 2078, and he's really found a home here in Milwaukee after bouncing around a couple times earlier in his career. Undeservedly so, by the way. I mean, clearly he was super duper efficient and super good, his whole career, clearly. And so he's finally got a chance to shine here in Milwaukee. He's a 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA since arriving here. And so, this guy's legit, man. This dude is for real. He's 35 years old at this point, so he's getting up there in age, unfortunately. So I don't know if he can, wheel this team to a championship at this point in his career. But who knows? right? They're here in the second round, so fuck it. Might as well go for it, right? we got Stephen Carwell. He was the 20th pick overall back in 2080, and he was backing up a guy named Terrence Jennings, who was only about 6'2", 6'3", and he was the starting shooting guard. And that was a crazy era of Milwaukee basketball, by the way, because he was only 6'3" or something like that, and this dude was averaging like 30 points a game. And not only that, but he started off in Atlanta. Not doing really much of anything, and he ends up joining Milwaukee just on a whim. They just signed him just for whatever reason. And then he was super duper efficient. He was putting up hella numbers. And then he started making all-star teams, and it was this big deal in Milwaukee because who was this random guy? He was like a 20th, 30th pick or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Late lottery. Late in the round. This dude just scored the league. And they ended up making playoffs. But they ended up having a super duper short lineup with him at the 2, and then they had someone else at the 3 that wasn't very tall as well. And so it was just kind of a mess. And they were very glad to draft this guy, Stephen Carwell, because they thought that he could overtake him. And they were right. He ended up over time. His first 3 years, he came off the bench. But at that third year, he averaged 11. And then this 4th year, he averaged 28 points a game. So he came off the bench. They gave him that full starting role in 2084. And he's been shining ever since. And let me find Terrence Jennings real quick. I don't even know where the fudge he's at. Where's Terrence? Where's old Terry? Where's my boy Terry at, man? Terrence Jennings? I couldn't even tell you where he at right now. I couldn't tell you. I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Search by the name, Terrence. Here he is. He's in Memphis. Okay. Bro, look at this shit. See, I wasn't lying. Look at this. He was in Atlanta. Yep. Bro, how did I know that? 23rd overall pick, 2070. Look at this shit. He averaged 41% in Atlanta his first year. 5 points a game. He gets to Milwaukee, immediately starts putting up 19 a game. And they end up starting him. They're like, what the fudge? And then he puts up 30. Look at these numbers. 33 points a game, 31 points a game, 29, 27, 28, 29. Like, holy shit. This dude was like going crazy. All these assists and rebounds and shit too. Like, this dude was awesome. But he only made one All-Star team, one All NBA team. Sorry for the stutters. Let me check the Bucks just real quick. Sorry, this is a very long tangent. I'm aware, and I apologize. But this is y'all got to know the lore, bro. Y'all got to understand this shit. So look at this, bro. Let me see. Hold up. Let me check that real quick because I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see because they weren't good when he was doing that. He was putting up all the numbers, but they actually weren't very good. The Bucks. So I'm trying to see their win-loss percentage those years that he was hooping like that. Let's see. He's at the end of Memphis' bench right now because he has a super large contract. Okay, so yeah, 77 through 82. So we go back to Milwaukee basketball, and we find them somewhere. Okay, here they are. And so 77 through 82. Yep. So 28 wins, 29 wins, and then 46, 48. Okay, so they made the playoffs in a couple years. And then yeah, these were the years that he was kind of dwindling out, and they were waiting on Carwell to develop. And so yeah, they've been more successful with him at the helm, just because of the positional differences in the league and just the height and stuff. He's only 6'4", but he has a larger wingspan. He's more of a better guard overall too. And so yeah, so we have them, and then we got this guy at the 3, Guy Jamison, man. He was the 10th overall pick back in 2077, and he's been here ever since. He had some years averaging 28 points a game. He had some years averaging 24, 19. Just kind of just being whatever they need basically. He's been very dependable at that 3 spot. 6'8", 239 pounds, very strong, very athletic. He can hold his own. He doesn't really stand out in any type of way necessarily, but they have zero complaints. Like he hits his open threes. He can create his own shot a little bit. He can defend. He can rebound. He can do whatever you need. And then this guy Peter Popovich, he was a saving grace. When I tell you this team was going down the hole, they drafted this guy 10th overall in 2081, and they hoped to God, they prayed that this guy turned out to be something for them because they had nothing. They didn't have a good center. And this guy Peter Popovich, he wasn't even supposed to be that good. He was just a tall guy, and he slipped to number 10 because nobody even thought that he was that good. And so when Milwaukee picked him up, thinking that they could develop him and stuff, and sure enough, they were able to develop him. And this dude had a couple seasons averaging 30. He had 3 seasons in a row averaging 30, man. Like, that's crazy. He's only in year 5. And he's averaging 39 and 16 on the year. I mean, and 1.6 on the year. And then these playoffs, he's averaging 15 rebounds a game, which is crazy. So, and he's a one-time All-Star, one-time All-NBA, bro. And then we got Derek Callaway. We got him from Brooklyn. Yep. See, I told you. Back in 2081. Because this guy was like the prototypical defensive anchor in the league. Like, this is what you wanted. Like, when we look around the league about a center that can block shots and rebound and be the anchor of your defense, this is the guy. Like, this was the guy that you looked at and be like, yo, we need him. And he was in Orlando. He was hooping. He was being exactly what they needed. But they shipped him off to Brooklyn in a very unique circumstance because they had Richard Valentine, who we know is a legend in this game, basically, and Brooklyn had him. And so they wanted to trade him. And Richard Valentine didn't really fit Brooklyn's timeline necessarily. He didn't really fit their roster construction because they had some older vets and stuff. Even though they had him, they had older vets. And so Richard Valentine was drafted around the same time that Derek Callaway was. I believe, let me look at it real quick while we're here. While we got the stats in front of us, we might as well. He was drafted in 2072 to Brooklyn. Let's check that. Let's fact check that. I already know I'm right, but yes. So yes, he was traded in 2074 for this guy, Derek Callaway, who was on the Orlando Magic at the time. So recap the story. Derek Callaway is drafted 3rd overall to Orlando in 2071. And so he plays there for 3 years, and then he gets traded in the offseason of 2074 for Richard Valentine. So Derek Callaway goes to Brooklyn, and Richard Valentine goes from Brooklyn to Orlando. And so Orlando, as we know, ended up making the finals 2 different times. One time in 2076, one time in 2078. And then Brooklyn Nets with Derek Callaway as the defensive anchor and that star veteran core that they wanted to add him to be the anchor of that team. You know, that team, they had Darren Nash, they had Herb Sessions, they had a whole bunch of guys. That was a damn good team. And they damn near made the finals and actually lost to Orlando. Ironically enough, in 2 different conference finals appearances. In 2076 and 78, they lost to Orlando both times. Go figure, right? Like, what are the odds? And so, you know, you could argue who won that trade or whatever, but, you know, they both moved on. And so, 2081, offseason, the Nets were like, yo, we need to blow this shit up, basically. And so they ship off Callaway to Milwaukee, who, again, they needed a defensive anchor. They're like, perfect, let's go grab up Derek Callaway. And he's been there ever since. You know, it's a small market, and he was a pretty big time player, but he's been very good for them. He's been very solid. He's been exactly what he's been his whole career, and you know, they made a couple of different runs with him. So yeah, he's been pretty good. He's 32 right now, so he's getting up there in age, but still athletic, still good. We got Darren Oliver. This guy was undrafted. This guy has a crazy ass work ethic. This guy, he bounced around a little bit. He was in Los Angeles. He went to Sacramento for a number of years to develop, and he got pretty good there. And then he got a big time bag from Toronto. And he only stayed there for a year and a half, and he was shipped off to San Antonio, where he played for a number of years, and then he got shipped to Milwaukee this past trade deadline. And ironically enough, that trade to San Antonio from Toronto for Darren Oliver in that 2081 trade deadline was for this guy right here, who's currently on the Raptors. I don't even know how to say his name, but Rabiu N'Dour, whatever. This guy was the 27th pick, 2075. And he was in San Antonio for many, many years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. He was in there for 5.5 seasons. And he comes to Toronto in exchange for Darren Oliver and absolutely goes off randomly. He wins an MVP in 2085. And he's a 3-time All-NBA member, 4-time All-Star. Like, this dude, I don't know, like San Antonio. So this is now the second backup point guard that they let go that has flourished on a new team. Barney King to the Bucks, and then this guy, Rabiu N'Dour, to the Raptors. So, you know, and calls into question the Spurs organization. What the hell are you guys doing? Now, they did have Henry Gilbert being the starter over both those guys in both those times. So it's understandable. But, I mean, holy shit, how do you not see the talent that you have on the roster? He's right under your wing. Like, you have him right there. How do you not understand? Anyway, he goes to Toronto, averages 30 and 10. He averages a triple-double, and then damn near triple-double for every other year. And so, yeah, bro, this shit is crazy. And they just beat the Boston Celtics. And okay, so yeah, the Liberty beat the Wizards. My bad. I said the Celtics earlier, but they beat the Wizards in round 1, and then the Raptors are the ones who beat the Celtics in round 1 this year. And so yeah, I know that was a long tangent, but that's what this video is for, is to give you guys the backstory and all this shit. So we got Dale Hickson after that. He has a funny little story too. He was in OKC for a couple years, and he really wasn't who they wanted. I think I explained this before actually, but he wasn't really who they wanted, and he wasn't really who they thought he could be. He's a 7'2", big ass dude. They thought he could be a superstar. Superstar scorer, superstar rebounder, superstar shot blocker, but that didn't happen. He didn't rebound and shot block as well as they wanted to. They ship him off in year 2. Actually, they didn't even ship him off. They just let him walk in free agency. He signed with Milwaukee, ironically enough, and that was in 2073. He gets shipped to San Antonio in 2078 for Barney King, who's yes, the same Barney King that we talked about earlier. So they get traded for each other, and now Dale Hickson is back on the Bucks here in 2086. But in 2078, he was traded from the Bucks to San Antonio, and then 2086, he was traded from San Antonio to the Bucks. So yeah, and he was hooping though too. He was hooping in Milwaukee. His first stint in Milwaukee, he was hooping in his first stint in San Antonio. All those years, they didn't have any draft picks, so they just really kept all their veterans for way longer than they should have. And so now he's back in the bench role. We got Kelly Glover. We got him from Dallas. What the heck? I don't remember that. Yeah, I remember him in Utah. He was in Utah, and he ended up leaving to Boston. I don't remember that. He went to Boston. I mean, I do kind of remember that, but who did they let go? Because if they let him go, that means they had somebody else. I forgot, bro. But this was a minute ago. I forgot, but yeah. And then he signed with Dallas, and he's in Milwaukee. And he's been in Milwaukee for a minute. That's all I know. And then Kenneth Teague. Damn, we got a lot of former OKC guys on this Bucks team. You know, I never really realized that how many OKC guys we had. But yeah, Kenneth Teague, again, another former OKC guy. He was drafted in 2075, 18th overall pick. He was in OKC for 6 years, and then he's been in Milwaukee for the last 5 years. And then we got Devin Cooper, who's bounced around the league as a journeyman. He was a 4th overall pick. Didn't really turn out, the way the league thought that he could, but he's still been decent, I guess. Mac Jackson, he was a 2nd round pick, journeyman, decent shooter, decent defender, nothing special. Cal Neely, again, 2nd round pick, shooter. Zach Berry, late 1st round pick, rebounder. Yeah, so this is the team, bro. So this team doesn't have like a million expectations because they were kind of thrown together. They have a little bit of mix of old and young, but this team just works. They just have some really good guys at the front: Barney King, Stephen Caldwell, Peter Popovich. And it works. And they have some connective glue guys in Jameson and Callaway, and so it works. I don't know if they're a championship contender necessarily, but they play very well. They're the 4th seed. They just play really good basketball. They have closers. They have IQ. They have good coaching. So there's nothing really fundamentally wrong with the team, but it's just sometimes they run out of steam in the playoffs. They don't really win the championship because they don't have that super star that you often need to win one. And so yeah, and then the Louisville Liberty. Where do I even begin, man? Where do I even begin? I think I explained them a little bit already, but basically this whole team was drafted except Gerard Best. He was drafted to OKC. Damn, OKC had so many picks. My goodness, OKC. But he was drafted to OKC in 2073. He was traded to Louisville for a guy named Art Mercer, I believe his name was. I feel like I talked about this in one of these episodes before. I might have. Hold on, is he in Golden State? Yes, he is. Art Mercer, here he is. He was in Louisville, yes, as you can see. Louisville, he drafted 10th overall in 2071. And so, yeah, they were traded for each other because OKC needed a rebounder and Louisville needed a shot blocker. So they were perfect. And it was actually, I think it was the last one-to-one trade in NBA history since then. I don't think there's been a one-to-one trade since then. That was 2076, so over 10 years ago, which is crazy. And because it was just so perfect that neither one of the teams needed extra compensation. It was thought to be such a one-for-one swap, such a perfectly executed swap. And obviously, Gerard Best is a lot better than Mercer, as we can find out. Gerard Best has been the defensive anchor for a dynasty for all these years, and Art Mercer is in the bench of a non-playoff team. So, that tells you enough right there. And then this guy, Darren Griffith, man, fucking beast. Round 1, pick 1, 1st overall pick 2072. Generational big man. Awesome, amazing. There's nothing you can say. This guy's awesome. 8-time All-Star. You name it. Accolades up and down the board. Rookie of the Year. Gregor May, he was drafted 15th overall in 2070. And then Calvin Goodrich was also drafted in 2070. So they were both drafted in the same year. Both in the late lottery. But Gregor May, this dude came out the gate scoring a hell of points. And he was more of a scorer. They didn't think that he was a playmaker or a defender or anything like that. And so they just kind of gave him the keys to the offense because he was a late lottery pick. They were like, yo, this guy has some scoring chops. Let him have the ball. Let him do whatever he wants, right? And so they just kind of gave him the ball, let him do what he wanted. And while Calvin Goodrich was off the bench, and he's a small forward, but he was playing the backup power forward because they already had a backup small forward at the time, and he just wanted to fucking play. So they said, fine, you can be the backup 4. And he did that shit. He only averaged 5 a game, but he had some decent shooting splits, as you can see. And then the next year, he averaged 6. And then the next year, he averaged 7. And then the next year, they put him in the starting lineup. And all these years, they were really bad, by the way. These early 70s were very bad for Louisville. They were doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of deep thinking about the direction of their franchise. Because Louisville Liberty, again, another little backstory. This team isn't shit. Before this run that they're on right now, where they won 4 championships in 4 years. Before this shit, bro, they weren't nothing, bro. They started off in like 2000, I want to say like 40 something. I know it's not going to go back that far, but I want to say they started off, I think I added to the league in about 2040 something. And so for damn near 30 years, they were just mediocre. Look at all these wins. This is in the 60s, but look at this shit. 44, 50, 50, 46, 45, 43. Like, they were just middle of the pack for all these years. Never in the 60s or anything. And then they finally bottomed out in the late 60s and the early 70s, which is the time period we're talking about right now. And so they had all these guys, and then they drafted these two, Goodrich and May, in 2070. And in 2071, they drafted this guy right here, Darren Griffin. Oh, wait, no. 2071. Oh, yeah, that was Art Mercer, I believe, that we just covered. 2071. Let me check. Yes. So 2071, they drafted him 10th overall. And so then in 2072, they drafted Darren Griffith, superstar big man. And so they were like, yo, let's go. They had Mercer and Griffith at the 4 and the 5. And so they tried that out for a year, and then they shipped off Mercer to OKC for best. So that was this year in 2076. And they drafted Harvey Carney, 29th overall, 2074. This dude has a crazy ass work ethic. He was known as a shooter before he came into the league. Just as a pure shooter, just more of a sharp shooter, more of a Seth Curry type of guy. And this dude worked his ass off, and now he's averaging 28 and 12, right? And he's 4-time champion, all that. So 7-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA. And so the rest of these guys, like I said, Howie drafted in 2075, and then we had Philip Lucas, who's in Detroit right now, but we had him for a little bit. I mean, for a long bit, actually, I should say. Where is he? Yes, he is. Here he is. Yep. See, he's the only other guy with all 4 rings. Okay. He was drafted in 2074. He was the 8th overall pick. And so he was in Louisville all these years, coming off the bench, averaging single-digit points. But everybody knew that he had the potential for more, but he sacrificed for that team, man. And he was a really, really integral part of that team, honestly, because he was a big-ass 6'8" small forward off the bench that could shoot, that could rebound, that could pass. And he was really versatile for a bench player. So that was really hard for teams to guard against. So you can see why this team won so many championships and stuff. And then before Harvey Carney really took the helm, as you can see, he had some low numbers here. They had a guy named Drew Haywood, who was, he was in Charlotte, he was in Dallas, whatever. They ended up shipping him to Louisville, where, again, mind you, this team wasn't known for anything, in Haywood's whole career. So he ends up here, he's like, yo, what the hell? But he sees these young, hungry guys, man, and he just took them under his wing, and he helped them make the playoffs for the first time as a unit. And then he ended up going to the bench when Harvey Carney got good enough, and, he won like 3 championships with us before he retired. But he was a perfect bridge the gap point guard for us. And then Darren Griffith, like I said, we drafted him in 2073, but no, sorry, not Griffith. Darren Griffin. That's also a weird little thing. We have one player, Darren Griffith, and then we have another player named Darren Griffin, who's the point guard. But Griffith is the center, Griffin is the point guard. I know their names are super duper similar, but they're spelled a little bit differently. But Griffin, the point guard, was drafted in 2073. He was traded to Houston. For Drew Haywood right here in 2075. So in that 2075 offseason, they trade him for Drew Haywood, like I just said. And so he was in Houston hooping, right? He was averaging, high 20s, mid 20s points per game in Houston. And then he goes to Dallas for a couple of years to be their point guard. And that worked out for a little bit. They made like the 8th seed or something, got knocked out. And so they shipped him to Louisville this past offseason because they ended up getting Henry Gilbert from San Antonio, the guy that we were just talking about earlier with the Bucks. He's been in San Antonio all this time. He got traded to Dallas this past trade deadline, and so they didn't need Darren Griffin anymore. And in fact, he was a part of the trade to get Henry Gilbert. And so they shipped off Griffin to San Antonio in exchange for Gilbert, and then San Antonio shipped off Griffin to Louisville because they wanted an all-star caliber point guard off the bench to give them more depth. And so they got it. They gave up some first-round picks and some depth and shit, but they got it. And so he's been really good off their bench. Plus, he's already familiar with the team, so it's like a nice little reunion. Kind of nice little storyline there. But yeah, and then Herman Gregory, they got him from Minnesota. Solid big man, finals experience. Eugene Hines, he was an all-star, all-NBA type of guy for Miami for many, 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 many years. He had some battles with Louisville, actually, as a member of the Heat. The Heat in Louisville had some battles back in the day in the playoffs. But, now he's here in Louisville trying to help them win a ring, So that's pretty cool. He's bounced around the last couple of years, though. He was in Miami from 2071 until 2083. And then in 83, he was shipped off to Orlando. And then in 84, he was shipped off to Minnesota. And then 85, 86, he was shipped to Louisville. So he's been bouncing around a little bit, the last couple of years after being so stable for the first 10 years of his career. It's crazy. Leon Calloway, this guy's a champion in his own right. He had shit, I forgot about this guy. Yeah, he was the 9th overall pick to Sacramento. They had a good point guard back then, so he didn't really get a bunch of playing time. He goes to New York, puts up crazy numbers, 25 and 9, but no one really believed the hype. He goes to Washington to back them up for a year, and then he goes to Seattle. That was really his home because they didn't have any cap space or anything to sign anyone else, so they signed him to a long-term contract, and he was the perfect point guard off the bench. He was the perfect 6 man. He was really good at shooting, really good at playmaking and all that, and he won a championship with them in 2078. So great little story there, and then the rest of you guys, who cares? So yeah, I know that was long, but I had to explain it. This is the round 2 This is the round 2 NBA playoffs 2086. Round 1, game 1. Sorry, I'm stuttering, but round 2, game 1 recap. The next episode won't be this long because now you know the history, and so we'll just go game by game from this point on. But the next game is Suns versus Timberwolves, and so we'll cover that in the next episode. And make sure you guys like and subscribe, and make sure to comment down below any specific team lore you want to see, any little thing that you want to see. any explanations and shit, make sure to let me know, and I will make sure to do that. And so, yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoy. See you later. Peace.